Welcome back. We are joined today by a very special guest, hopefully the first of many, Will Palestrant, coming in from JMU Club Handball. He's going to tell us a little bit about that, his experiences, talk about what club handball, or not club handball, but what club sports mean to not only him, but a university as a whole. And we'll see if we can talk some other sports there at the end. Will, thanks for coming on. Ecstatic to have you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. I'm pumped to talk about this.
Yeah, so first off, I didn't really know what handball was till the past couple of years. I've seen it on Instagram a couple of times. You're over
Yeah.
here playing it. What what is it? If you can give it a comp to some of these other sports, what would you say it's very similar to?
I love it because it is similar to basically every single sport. It takes aspects from every single sport. I was doing a little research before this, and the current USA team handball phrase is the best sport America's never heard of. Hopefully, it's gonna launch off soon, but they've been saying that for about. So we'll see. Um, but so handball combines, I would say, the throwing aspect of baseball, a lot of the foul rules of soccer, the dribbling of basketball, and kind of the layout of lacrosse court almost. Um, so the way it works is that it's 7-on-7. There are six people in the field and then one person in goal. Um, both of the goals are surrounded by a 6 meter line, um, and none of the players can step in the 6 meter line except for the goalie. So if you ever see like a logo for handball, it'd be like a dude jumping up and like with his arm way above his head, because the main way to score in handball is by jumping over the line and throwing the ball in. Because you can be over the line, you just can't be on the ground. Just like if you're making a save in like basketball and stuff like that. Um, but it's also on top of like a lot of people, like if they know what they know those kind of basics. Um, but the main thing that people don't realize that because they play in PE is that handball's actually like extremely physical. That you can basically like push, shove, do a lot of like stupid stuff that the refs can't see, which happens, like a lot of jersey tugging and stuff like that. Like a cornerback playing defense on like a wide receiver in football. Basically, the only rule is that you can't go from like the neck and above, and you can't shove with your arm fully extended, like your elbow is straight. But until that, you basically can do whatever the heck you want, and beat the heck out of some guys. I pretty much always come back from handball tournaments with just a ton of bruises, but it's a lot of fun.
I like
Shoot,
it.
how do I get in this? How do I get into this?
How did I
Can
get
you
in this?
fight? Can you fight?
Can you? I mean, you'll get like a red card and get thrown out. It's not like hockey
That's
where you
worth
can
it to
just.
me.
um, I mean, yeah. So how did I get in this? When I went to JMU, they had what's called choices, which is their accepted students that you basically come in. They're like, hey, you've accepted the university, but you're not like committed yet. Let's, come show you some more that we have to offer and stuff like that. And so at our recreation center, they had a bunch of tables for all the clubs that you could sign up for. Like handball was represented there, and so I walked up to them and they're like, "Hi." And I was like, "What's up?" They're like, "I'm hand." They're like, "We're the club handball team." And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." Um, and I didn't really think much of it. I mean, I played a little bit like summer camp, things like that. They're like, "Yeah, we really, really recruit ex-baseball players." I was like, "Hey, I played baseball for the last like 10 years of my life, including with the fine gentleman Briggs McElmore over there. Shout out middle school baseball with him. Um, but and so because it's the basically the same format because you're just throwing the ball. And so I was like, shoot, I'll do that. They seem like a really good group of guys. I got there. So that was like when I was still a senior in high school. I got there last year as a freshman. Went to tryouts, made the team, and I've kind of just stuck with it ever since because it's a lot of the same muscle groups as baseball is, just with more cardio, which I feel like is good for everybody. Um, and I've just really loved it, and it's been a lot of fun because you know um, we'll get into more about club sports later, specifically. But I think that it's a really good opportunity for people to do that club sport because they don't travel all the time, and handball especially.
So I was actually asked this question yesterday when I was talking to some people about sports in general. And at least for me, I stopped playing hockey after my senior year of high school. I've missed it so much. Hockey was such a big part of who I was all the way up through high school, and I love to watch it. I love to go to the club hockey games here. South Carolina's adding a D3 team, and I thought about it real hard. Like, hey, do I want to do this? I don't know if I have the time. I haven't really made my full decision yet, but do you feel that the club sport, especially handball, offers you somewhat of that like replacement of having that baseball in your life, especially being playing it your entire life leading up to it, and
Yeah.
having such a deep love for the game? Do you think having that extra sport or something else kind of fills in somewhat of that gap that's left when you stop playing baseball?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I will say as a precursor, without like not having baseball in my life still means that I don't have baseball in my life. Like I still miss the game. I'll still like occasionally like have dreams at night of like, playing baseball and like stuff like that. But it does fill that kind of like athletic void. If anybody who knows me, my two passions are anything sports related, and I'm also a theater kid. Um, and so it was pretty easy to get into like the arts parts, but like going into college, at the first glance, sports are much harder to get into. It's basically like you can go and like play pickup basketball at like your recreation center and stuff like that, but you don't have that kind of like brotherhood of the team and the practice schedule and things like that and the travel schedule. So when I joined that club sport, I'm practicing 3-4 days a week for this. I'm going to like three tournaments a semester. This semester, I wasn't there for all of them, but we played tournaments at um, Pitt, uh, Army, as in West Point, and at UNC. The unfortunately West Point is the best team in the country, and it's not even close. At their own home tournament, they had multiple professional handball teams there, and they still won their own home tournament handily. Um, but anyway, yeah, no, I adore club sports. I think it's absolutely a great way, especially for like since me going to big D1 school with like 20,000 kids here, I wouldn't get the opportunity to play baseball. Let alone maybe even make the club baseball team. And kind of having this sport that almost nobody plays beforehand meant that I got a shot to not only play a sport, have a practice schedule, have a team to hang like and tons of friends. Like I'm living with handball guys now. But also maybe have a shot at like starting and playing in tournaments and getting serious minutes, which I think is huge. Because as much as I love handball, if I didn't get like to play in tournaments against other teams, like what am I here for? But yeah,
That's a great answer there. Yeah, Joey, do you need to say something?
Speaking of practice schedules, what was your schedule look like during the week, during the semester? I'm sure exam week gets a little wild.
yeah. So our main practice schedule for handball right now is Tuesday 7 to 9, Thursday 7 to 9, and then Saturday from noon to 2:30. Um, Although I think that might have just changed to Sunday. Kind of always up in the air. But yeah, it's about 3 days a week. It's in the evenings as most clubs activities are. And but because it's only 3 days a week and you're not doing the full varsity level of sport, I can do other clubs, which I think is a huge thing. Because if I was like, man, I'm gonna like do travel my last 2 years of high school, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go probably make like a D2, D3 team for baseball. I wouldn't get to do anything else. Like those practices are like 5, 6 days a week. Like I have no shot at like pursuing everything else that I love. But doing this club handball, which even like some club teams, they'll do like once a week, and it kind of ranges. So some club teams will do once a week. Some club teams will do like 7 days a week, and you show up to as many as you can. But that's just the teams like swim, tennis, and other things like that. Like massive amounts of people. Like I'm talking like 100, 200 people on the team, and it's like so we'll have practices 7 days a week, and you just show up when you can. Um, uh, Club sports are really like that opportunity to pursue an athletic career, um, like like seriously, um, and also do everything else that you love to do, and like you said, exams and school and things like that. That are student athlete, student always goes first, as everybody likes to say.
Well, it
So,
definitely gives you a chance to be an athlete
Yeah,
or a student athlete because with what we're seeing in like varsity sports in college now, it's more just athlete and student second. It's more like athlete
yeah,
student
yeah,
or athlete period student.
yeah.
But
Athlete who's forced to be a student. Yeah.
yeah, I just do this so I don't get suspended.
Lordy, when they're hiring like personal tutors just for the teams on like intro level subjects, because they're not even trying. Like, y'all, come on.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
so you talked about playing baseball in high school. Obviously, same conference at high schools we went to. I think you guys beat up on
Yeah.
us a couple times. But
Yep. I
what
love
has
love playing y'all.
what has been the hey, I played golf. I wasn't there. I hung
Yeah, I
up
know
the
you quit. I was so pissed when you're like, bro, I'm hanging up the spikes. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, no, you're not. And you're like, yeah, I am, man. I'm playing golf. And I was like, golly.
He decided to go get a different type of spikes. The flat
Yeah.
spikes. Just he decided to be an
Hanging.
old man for a couple years.
Hey, I mean, more power to him because in the end, he can play that for the rest of his life where I don't have the opportunity. So,
hey,
Yeah,
it's a great
you can
business goal
wheelchair it
too.
out there.
hey, I'm playing intramural slow pitch softball right now. So there we go. Anyway, Briggs, what are you saying?
So you were taught or you played in high school. What has been like the biggest similarity and difference, especially for like the high schools out there, they're looking at colleges right now. If they wanted to go and play a club sport, what's been something that's been similar to what you did in high school, as well as what's been something that has been different that you've got or that you've needed to get used to?
Yeah. All right. Similarities are kind of. I think most high school sports, if we're talking like outside of like your main powerhouse like IMG, um, aren't very like year round. You have to be at practice like every single like 5 days a week, 365. Um, and that's kind of the nice thing about doing that club sport is that you still get that same opportunity. I mean, I have practice every single week that I'm here at JMU, but it's not like, if I don't, if I miss a practice, it's not like that's gonna like in like interfere with me being on a roster. Like high school, if like you're missing a bunch of practices, you're slacking off on practices, then you're probably not gonna make the roster. You're not gonna make the starting lineup for baseball for me. Um, so that's kind of that nice thing about it's a little bit more low key. And that, high school sports allow them, you can still do other things when you do high school sport. Um, Biggest difference, I'll give two. One is that you don't have the pressure of like college or like you don't have the pressure in high school of trying to go make that college team. Like you're like, okay, there maybe is like a scout here that's scouting like some like insane pitcher who's going D1 of the other team. I have to play really well because like maybe I like get some catches. Like a lot of club sports is the people are just here for the love of the game. Um, and so it's kind of just like you can play for yourself, for your team, and just kind of play for the game and do what you love in that regard. Um, and I would say the other difference would probably be it's just the difference in general between high school and college is that, in college you make your own schedule, you get yourself out of bed, you live by yourself, you don't have parents. Um, your practice schedule isn't built into whatever your academic schedule is. Um, if your club like sports schedule like doesn't align with your academic schedule, you've done with academics first. Like now next semester, for my major, I'm taking classes going from 5:30 to 8 on Thursdays. And if practice is at 7, um, I just have no shot at making it, period. Um, and so then it's just kind of like adjusting to that because in high school there's kind of like no excuse not to make practice, but in college you can make an excuse in the world to make practice. So it's just about making like the schedule and making the effort to actually go to practice and things like that.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think academics are definitely a lot more important than especially at our stage when we're looking to go out and make a difference. You talked about there not being that pressure of, hey, there's a scout here, possibly looking at someone on their team, going to play well. Does that lead to you possibly having more fun, playing better without that pressure? Like, how have you felt during those games where it's kind of just go out there and have fun?
Yeah, absolutely. I have more fun, especially like when you also, to add on to that, when you don't have a coach who's like the adult in the room, and it's like you have to also impress him when you're kind of just being led as a student organization, you can goof off. We played against UVA at UNC last semester or 2 semesters ago now, and they it was an 8 a.m. game because we were playing for like a middle seed, like because it was like in the tournament. We were just playing for like a random middle seed. And so like we weren't playing to like win the whole thing. Both of us knew. Um and so UVA shows up and they are extremely hungover from the night before. Um because they apparently had gotten like an apartment and then had just, uh, had fun. The entire night they come at 8 a.m. Some of them might still be a little under the influence. And they're playing against us, and we're just both laughing our butts off at each other because of how ridiculous the situation is. Um, but when you're doing that, like you can, like you're just like, this is so stupid. Like we ended up whooping them, of course, because all of us were like sober and had our right minds about us, and we all been to bed by like midnight. Um, but it's like no one was judging anybody. We're like, dude, like y'all had fun. It's great. Like we're all going home after this anyway. And so yeah, there's a lot more opportunity to just be free and fun and to not worry about like kind of what you're saying and then getting yelled at when you get back to the dugout or wherever your side of your team's on the bench. Because your coach is gonna like, rant you for like making the joke on the field and stuff like that.
All right, so I got a question then.
Yep.
So I personally miss some of the pressure of like high school sports and oh, there's you gotta watch out for number three, like he's going D2 or D1. And do you miss some of that pressure at all, or do you just enjoy having the fun that you're having? Or do you miss it kind of being serious?
So um it is both serious and fun, and that's the great part. Do I miss it? Yeah, because if I'm like, we're playing against a high school, and I know this guy's going D1. There was a Briggs, there was a good pitcher on Cape Henry, or they pretty much had one every year who went D1. Like they just like it was insane. I don't know what they were doing. They just had pitching factory there, and so like if you like hit like a blooper into right field. And managed to get on base against this D1 pitcher, who'd been like having like a perfect game at that point. That's not the best feeling in the world. You're like, I cannot be beaten. I am the greatest ever. Call me Barry Bonds. Kind of this whole thing. Um, but you still kind of get that in club sports, especially when you play against the really good teams. You're like, okay, this team's the best team in the country. They haven't lost. If I score against them, that's really good. UNC loves to play with their alumni team at their home tournaments. They have a team literally just made up of alumni, and they have two Olympians on their alumni team. They have two people who play for USA handball in the Olympics on their alumni team. And I'm going up there as a 19-year-old freshman who's played this sport for about 6 months. And I'm having to guard an Olympian. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? But like, you block one of his shots and then you're just like, "Rah!" Like I'm huge. And so you kind of still get that a little bit. But I do kind of miss that because, every single high school game, you're kind of like, going out there. Like, I'm playing for my conference. I'm trying to, get to the championship and things like that. And club sports are a lot of times just you get in the playoffs pretty much just by existing.
So, to follow that up, and this is something at least I'm curious about. I know I did club golf here for a semester, and there was like a national championship. It was like in Vegas or something like that. Do you guys have some sort of national tournament where you have to go through like sectionals and then regionals and then like super regionals and then the national championship? Or is it just like after you beat the Army, UVA, and whoever else is on the East Coast, it's like it's done for?
So somewhere in the middle. We have a national championship. It's actually this weekend at UNC. Um, but because handball is so small in the United States and so few schools have it, and because sometimes it's not feasible to get there. Like last year, it was in Northern Ohio, I'm pretty sure, and we're like, we can't do that. Like we have no money to go there, so we just didn't go. So it's kind of like there is a championship. If you can go, it's great, and then you pay the money to go in, and then it's like first day is like the play-in tournament sort of thing, and second day is like the bracket. Um, yeah, I think that answers. I hope that answers your question. But that's kind of
Yeah,
how, at least on the handball side, it works.
You got something, Briggs, or you want me to go?
you shoot.
All right, so we kind of already asked this, but with the way college sports are going right now, there's a lot of programs that are worried about maybe losing their schools with college football separate, or not losing their school, but losing their athletic program because college football is separating off, or losing revenue from revenue sharing with NIL. And do you think that's going to affect your club sports? And if it does, what is your case for it to for club sports to still be available?
Um, Honestly, I don't think it's going to affect it because they're run completely different. At least here at JMU, the club sports are run exclusively through actually a rec center. Um, we might have less money just because the university has less money to go around, period. Um, but with how much money our rec center gets, it's insane. Um, and so the way at least it works here is that club sports get money through the rec center, and there are certain tiers that you get. So the way the club sports get money is either through dues, which every sport you have to pay dues to be in the club, um, and then through the rec center. And so, like, if you're like, I'm a 200 person club and I'm hosting the national championship of my sport, you're gonna get a hell of a lot more money than somebody who's like, oh, I'm a brand new club and I have 15 members and we're playing ping pong and we just need paddles and like the space to go play. Um, and it's funny, but one of my friends is the president of Club Ping Pong here, and he's an absolute dog, and he's been like really working on growing the sport. But it's also it kind of makes sense that like he doesn't need as much money as this like massive team that's like not only like our club ultimate team and our baseball team I know for sure. Um, Both of which they both have two levels. There's two like different levels of them. Our club baseball team and our club ultimate team go to the championship or like the deep into the playoffs run like every single year. And we've hosted the national championship here before. So they're like automatically going to get a ton of money from UREC because they get the publicity, just like what you're talking about with like with money from sports. It's not nearly as the same thing, but club sports actually do bring in like publicity and money to the school. Especially if like we're bringing in tournaments here. Like when we got our home tournament for handball, people paid us to be here, and we got a bunch of money just from simply hosting a tournament.
So I know Joey just mentioned something about the football and NIL and all that. It was a hell of a year for you guys, both in football and basketball. What was it just like being on campus there in Harrisonburg?
It was kind of like, what's going on, man? Like, are we gonna lose? Oh no, we're just not losing like at all. Probably the craziest experience for me was college game day when that came here. That was so much fun. I originally tried to get in the pit. That didn't work out. There was like Do you want this full story or not? Because like I can do the briefer story or the
Go
full
for
story.
it.
Go
We're here
for it.
all night.
So College Game Day comes here. It's supposed to be on Saturday. Pat McAfee shows on Friday. I go and watch that. That was a ton of fun. The trucks got here on Wednesday to set up for the Saturday show. Like it was a huge thing. Like anytime you walk past the quad, you can see just like people like starting to set up, like building. They built like a road, basically on the quad with like gravel, so the trucks could get to the quad to like place it where it's gonna be. Um, and then so Friday night, the we knew that the pit was going to open at 10 o'clock, and so we got there around 9. They told us you have as good a chance to get a spot in the pit at 10 o'clock as you do at 6 o'clock. Um, that's BS. But so basically what ended up happening is we made a nice orderly line um, around the quad. The vibes were high. People were playing cards. We were like, just jamming out because we're all going to be there. And we all knew we were going to be there until the show started at 9 a.m. the next day. Um, and so we went there. We did our whole thing, and then suddenly at like 9:30, our dean of uh, student affairs, he's like a really big figure on campus, Tim Miller. He's like has like over 100,000 followers on Instagram and stuff like that. It's really rad. Um, but anyway, he shows up and goes to one specific spot, and then everyone's like, "Oh shoot, he must know something," and so everyone just starts sprinting and then like throwing hands, choking people out to try and get in this like because we now know like where the entrance is because it's like 9:30, and so were we gonna get in the pit? Maybe I don't know. I probably think so. But then he's like, go back to where like you were, go back to where you were. So we go back to like roughly where we were, but nobody's really going back to where they were. And the guys were already drunk by this point and like throwing hands and being um, so we get in line. It starts raining at this point. The vibes are completely lost. If there was any vibe, now it sucks. And so we get in line. We're standing there. It's like 10 o'clock at night. The pit stops 20 people before us. We're like, come on. Because I'm Tara too, my best friend's my girlfriend. And we're like, and so at this point, we're like, okay, what's next? So next would be if we're not getting the pit, we need to get the next best thing, so slightly behind the pit. And so we're like, it's now like 11 o'clock at night by this point. Who's going to be coming between now and like 2 a.m.? So we're like, all right, it's raining, so we're going to go back to our respective apartments. We're going to go to sleep, and we're going to go just get at least like 3 hours of warm, dry sleep. Um, and so then we go do that. We come back. It's like 2 a.m. by this point. People are up and about. I was like, do y'all just not sleep? But people are like moseying about. They brought out like hot chocolate and like donuts for us. That was nice. Um, but uh, but I was like, and like people were like randomly yelling at people walking by, and I was like, whatever. And so we like set up like a little camp thing. We got like a tarp, we got like chairs and stuff. We got some snacks. Everybody else kind of goes to sleep. I couldn't because people were yelling. And then about at like 4 a.m., people started showing up. So we're like, all right, we need to put our stuff away. So one of my friends lived on the quad and one of the dorms there. So we go throw the stuff in his dorm. We go get our I don't know place in the mob, and we're kind of just standing there, and in the end, stood there from about 4:30 a.m. until noon, in about the same place. Um, but in those like remaining hours, people started shoving past us. They're like, "Oh, my friend's up there. I just went to the bathroom. I'm meeting them." And like at first we're like, "Oh yeah, come on by. Like it's fine. Like we're chill. Harrisonburg's a friendly city. We're like, come on by. No worries." And then it gets to start be 8 a.m. They start pulling the same stuff, and the sorority girls line up, and they have all of their makeup done, and they obviously only got up half an hour ago. And I'm like, no, no way. I was like, you ain't going back there. I was like, I don't care if your friend's up there. That's nice. We've been here since 2 a.m. Get out. And so things start becoming a little testy, a little violent. But anyway, the show starts. It's great. We were directly in between. We were about 10 feet from the Jonas Brothers and about 10 feet from the cutaway stage. So yeah, it was epic. We had great seats, great views, but we had this like, we're on national TV and we set the record for game day attendance. Like that's crazy. And then ended
It
up
was
like
like
losing to apps.
Ended up losing to
It
App
was,
State.
no, 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 no. Nobody said that. In overtime.
It was like
No, it was
24,000, right?
yeah, it was something along that line. Like the previous record was like 18 or something like that. Like we crushed the record. Like we filled the quad. It was insane. Um, but
Well,
just being a part of that's insane.
you better tell your football team to figure it out again this year, because they'll probably come back.
I mean, we blew up our football team, so I don't know what's going on with
And
them
they're
because
good. They're
yeah,
good.
because yeah,
Virginia's on
our
the
coach
up and up in football.
we're the
Got
best J
Liberty
we are and
good.
we're the best Virginia school of football. I will claim that. We beat UVA. I went to that game against my friend. Tech sucked. ODU sucked, and then Liberty was the only other good team. And I hate Liberty personally. So I'm gonna call them that we're better. And also we're playing Liberty. We just signed a contract with them. I think to play them every year from like 2025 through like 2031. So that's a building rivalry right there too, which is great.
I love that.
I could I could support the Virginia Tech slander. I am not a Tech fan whatsoever.
Oh,
That
I
is,
can support any Virginia school slander. I'll
um,
tolerate any of it.
Put some
well,
respect on the purple and gold.
real
It's
quick.
hard to. It's like y'all and the Amazing Gold got something in common. Losing games you shouldn't lose to App State, but just
Hey
or the
man,
Maize and Blue. I'm tripping, but Maize and
which
Blue.
which one of App State or us? Who's the one who actually made the March Madness run? Got to the second round. Yeah, that's all. That's all I
Oh
gotta say.
wow,
I
oh
wouldn't call
wow.
that a run. I
I
would
wouldn't
call
call
that
that a
a.
run
We beat Wisconsin. We beat a 5 seed. That's all I'm saying. And we had the best record in the country this year.
I will
in
say
basketball.
I
Yes,
called that,
JMU had the best record in the country.
but
Yeah,
real
but
quick,
still lost to whoever.
Duke.
Duke. Okay,
Okay,
I'm
real
fair
not
enough.
quick
mad about
before.
that. I was
Got
like,
spanked by Duke. Got spanked by Duke. Embarrassed. All that type of stuff. It's all
I'm
right
just
though.
happy to be here. I'm an FCS team. I'm just happy to be here.
And not FCS anymore.
True FBS. Sorry, my bad. But we're still not a Power Five school.
There you are.
So
Or no,
No,
Sunbelt.
we're
Group
no,
of
they're
five.
group of five.
yeah, group of
So
five.
real
But you
quick,
could make the playoffs this year. Go ahead, Briggs, since you're getting agitated over there.
Joey, you could
He's
be a professional yapper at Yap University. It is insane. Um, Real quick, historically, I know Joey and I have each jinxed our teams,
Mm,
respectively.
mm.
Um, do you think that game day being at JMU for that game had anything to do with jinxing or affecting how that football team was going to play?
Yeah. Our quarterback who'd been playing lights out all year just decided to not know how to throw mid like anything pretty much 10 to like 20 yards. Uh, he was making dumb decisions. Jordan McLeod, like who had literally been lights out, like should have like could have almost been in contention for Heisman with how good he was playing. Um, just to suddenly decide, oh, I don't know how to play football, and then the next game was right back. So absolutely, people were suddenly watching JMU. Um, and I don't think that's like necessarily jinxing or anything. I just think that like there's these kids who are playing at JMU who group of five school, not used to being on ESPN and being like the center of attention, are now the center of attention. And you got Kirk Herbstreit and Pat McAfee talking about you. Like you're gonna freak out a little bit, and I don't hold it against any of them because our admission numbers are way up this year. We're really on the up and up. We got a lot of money coming into the university. I think that's important. I think a lot of that's our athletics doing so well in basically every sport. Um, and I hope to see that continue to come. And just as we get more and more, TV presence until we get to, we're not South Carolina. But as we get on the up and up, our players will get more used to it. We'll get more used to playing in those big games. But we've played big games on like we played UVA and won. We've played those big games on like days that are like you are the center of attention for the entire college football world. Um, Pressure's going to get to you, and I mean, I don't hold against any of these like guys.
I was gonna say, I know both of us believe in somewhat of a jinx when we talk about our teams because what was it, Joey? 3 weeks ago, he was like the Red Wings are the hottest team in hockey, and they proceeded to fire off a 7 game losing streak. I then came out and said, I think it was almost 2 weeks ago, I came out and said, oh, the Caps are on a run right now. They're looking real good, making a real strong push. And then they come out and fire off a 6 game losing streak that they just ended, I think, 2 nights ago. So obviously, we're a little skeptical when we talk about our teams.
Hmm.
But kind of back to getting into club sports. You talked about money being a big challenge for a club sport athlete. What are like, especially like trying to go places and travel? But what are some of the other challenges or obstacles that you guys have to face being club sport athletes compared to a D1 athlete?
Yeah. I mean, the amount of stuff that you get that's free as a D1 athlete is insane. I guess it does come down to money, like you were saying, and some scholarships for club players. Um, I don't think there should be either. If you're really talking about it, the word clubs, and there's no other sort of word. It's not like JV. We are a club. We're choosing to be here. We're paying in to be here. We're not being paid to be here. We're paying in to be here. Um, but that's kind of, I would say, the biggest challenge. But I think anybody who's joining a club team isn't really looking to get that, like, oh, I want to, like, translate that to like the D1 team. Um, I'd say you'd be better off like going to like an high school, um, and going into that way if you would try to like, you know, move up. I think basically once you're at the club, you kind of like are in the mindset of like, I'm just gonna have a goofy old time and when I get that again. Um, and I think that's like, there's a real beauty. It's money. But we're fortunate here at January at least that we get a bunch from the university, which means that we get to travel and go to all these incredible places and have like better than just like red roof and accommodations. Um, maybe we'll splurge and get a little home here and there. So yeah.
So you had talked about having to, or I guess you guys said you do like 3 tournaments a semester.
About that, yeah. It's all up to the club. There are a bunch, and then we'll also sometimes do match days, which are just like, you go to like we'll go drive down to UVA, play 3 games, and come back same day, which don't count for like any sort of points toward your national ranking, but are just kind of fun to like play against teams.
So I know Joe and I both played travel hockey throughout middle and high school. And that being gone on the weekends kind of has a pretty big impact on your social life. How does playing a club sport and being gone some of those times on the weekends impact how you're able to spend time with your friends and you mentioned your girlfriend?
Not really. I mean, I'm gone. If I'm gone like 3 weekends in a semester, I'm fine. There's you might miss the like, oh, there's a big party this weekend. As a freshman, that might matter, but pretty much after freshman year, like there'll be another big party in a couple of months anyway. It doesn't really matter. And then with friends, like being in college, you can kind of do the adult thing of like, yo, y'all want to come over and play cards for like an hour at night from just like 9 to 10 or whatever, and you can do that, and it's great. And you don't got like people who are like, you got to do your homework. It's up to you. But like, if you got your work done, you got your stuff in order, and just come over, hang out. Um, Go play like Mario Kart and stuff like that. Like I kind of love that like resurgence of like that child, like what you really love as a child in college. And but you absolutely have the time and opportunities to do that.
You want me to go?
Yeah, you got it.
Mhm. So I guess what why if you were to recommend some sort of club sport to someone, what
Mhm.
like would you and why would you recommend it?
Yes, I would. If you are like me, the biggest selling point is that you can still be an athlete in college. You can still travel and play other schools. Like just the words of like, oh, I'm gonna go play Pitt or Auburn or UNC or like, West Point, all these like Ohio State. We did play Ohio State. There's shout out to you, Joey. Um, uh, uh, we get to play all these like crazy teams and like you get to say those words, but then you only have to practice 3 days a week and you can go do whatever other passions that you might have. You don't have to give up those other things that you love. You can go explore um, everything. And like, there's like over 400 clubs here at JMU. There's going to be something for everybody, and you don't have to commit your entire life. And Briggs, you were saying with your entire social life, varsity sports don't have a social life, as you might know. Like, especially when you're in season, you don't get to see anybody. Like, I know a couple of guys who are on like the football basketball team. And I talk to them, they're like, yeah, I don't. I have early morning practices. I have early morning classes. I go home, do my homework. I'm in practice again in the evening or doing lifts. Um, and then I'm going to bed. Maybe you get to go to like parties in the off season and stuff like that, but when you're in season, you also can't do any. You can't even try to like do anything because it's going to be bad for your body and you're not going to be performing well anyway. Club sports gives you that opportunity to like still be a kid, um, and you don't have to like go about it like it's a job. Um, but yeah,
So I, I I obviously don't know what your plans are going to be for after college.
I
But
would.
how do
There's
how do
always
you
handball.
how do you see being able to still play sports in college, still be able to have that active presence, be able to affect kind of what you do after college and how you go about maybe playing sports outside of college, whether it's through work or stuff like that?
Yeah. They say that like what it takes 30 days to build a habit. How about 4 years? You have that habit of like, oh, I have this like athletic thing that I'm going to. Um, I Your body misses when you're like being really good to it, like practicing and doing all this kind of stuff, so like running, eating well, and things like that. Like I do like in the gym, start lifting. Um, if you do all this sort of stuff in high school and then you just end it in college and you don't do anything in college, you're going to drop off and it's going to become so much harder to restart. If you can continue doing that and like investing more of yourself into it, you will be able to more easily continue at post college, continue like, feeding your body with good foods, going and working out, making those times in your everyday schedule to make sure that you are living like a good life and being fit and things like that. Because it's hard. Like I have gone, it's basically every other semester now that I'm lifting. Because I'll like do a semester of lifting and then I'll get off it. I'll go to like summer break or like winter break and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't start my routine. And it's really hard to get back together. Um, but like, and then I'll like restart the whole cycle again. It's so much harder to restart than just do it on a weekly basis. So I think college gives you the opportunity of like even that free mixing to just go and do things that you love and keep your body active.
I will say the rec center here is very nice. We have a very, very nice gym, and I've used and abused that to almost its fullest potential. I don't think I've gotten in the pool here yet. I think this is one thing I haven't done, but we'll see if that changes here shortly. But
Yeah.
I know Joey mentioned this earlier, but if you were to go and like give a recommendation to kids out there who are like pushing to go like it's D1 or nothing. Do you think that there is some light in the tunnel to go, hey, I want to go to a big school like JMU or South Carolina, but I don't necessarily know if I'm going to get onto their varsity team. Hey, maybe I should look at their club sport and try and see if I can play club for a year and then walk on. How would you go about recommending that to juniors and seniors who are looking to kind of come up through the pipeline these next couple of years?
Yeah. Um, you as an athlete when you're in high school have to prepare your whole life for that next stage. You're like, okay, there's middle school, and after middle school, I'm going to go to high school. After high school, I'm going to college. And yeah, you are going to go to college. But if you look at the statistics as a high school athlete, there is a 1% chance that you make a Division One roster nowadays. There is a 1% chance. And you may look, oh man, I'm going to push myself, I'm going to do that. And you're like, great. But also, if you only push that, it's the only thing, and you don't look at other alternatives, you're going to end up seeing failure 99% of the time. Um, if you want to go to Division Three, that's also perfectly cool. But again, like me, I may have gone Division Three. I talked to a couple Division Three schools for baseball, and at the end of the day, I was like, I didn't want to go to a tiny school up in northern Michigan. That was the main person who I was like talking to. It was this tiny little school up in northern Michigan. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't see that for myself. I don't see leaving my friends and family and the life I've built for the past, 18 years at that point, where I am locally. I'm like really leaving. Um, and then but I really wanted to go to a big school, and I want to go to a school that's near me that I can like, not necessarily like right close to me, like go to you, but like something that's like a little further away, like General that's like about 4 hours away. And I kind of get this happy medium of playing sports like that, going to a school that's nearer to me, uh, and also going to a big school that can get that national recognition that you can say, hey, I go to James Madison University, I go to the University of South Carolina, I go to these like schools that have these big old like name recognition things. Um, and people can like appreciate that about you, especially when you're looking at future employment. Um, that's going to read a lot better on application if they can see, oh, you got your degree from here. Um, because for most people, you're not even making the big leagues because that's like 0.2% of high school athletes make the big league or something like that. I looked at these stats like a year ago and it's just like, jeez. So you should think about your future employment and things like that. Number one is find the college that fits you the most, and number two is think about what might look good on a application.
Some life-changing motivational stuff right there. That's what I
I was
like to
about to,
hear.
say we could clip that and put some music behind it, and that might go viral.
You got to play some motivational music. Sounds like the Avengers are all coming out.
About to
I
play that
like
Riverside.
that.
About to play that Riverside music we were listening to earlier.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
man.
Don't. All right, you got
So
anything else about club sports or?
I got one. I got one last question.
All
If
right,
you were
Hit
to
me.
rate, if you were to rate your club sport experience up until now, out of 10, 10 being the best, one being the worst, what would you give it?
Yeah, yeah, probably 8.5. Uh, yeah. I sometimes, want to be like, have these like incredible locker rooms that these D1 guys have or things like that. And I sometimes don't want to have to pay, $200 to be in this club or whatever the current rate is. Uh, but I get the opportunity to do things that I love, and I forever will be grateful for that. And I don't think I'll ever look back on this when I'm, older and be like, oh man, you didn't try hard enough in high school, to like go D1 or things like that. Like no, because I chose to not give up the other aspects of my life, the arts aspect of my life, but still maintain that sports aspect as well.
I don't think you could have put that any better. I think that's all I have for at least the club sports. But I do have a quick question. As kids are starting to kind of choose where they're going to go for the next 4 years, we'll say there's no
Yes.
transfer portal for students at least. Um, what would be your biggest piece of advice for incoming freshmen? I know we've been in school for 2 years. We can speak on it a little bit, but what's your biggest piece of advice for someone who's choosing a school and what they should do to be set up for success in their first year?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my goodness. I've been talking to so many seniors and juniors so far, so I got you. Biggest piece of advice is follow your gut. Go to as many schools as possible choose the schools that you can physically see yourself going to. At that point, look at like what your gut's telling you. Because I was like, man, I was like, I really want to like go to like that big UVA Virginia Tech kind of thing. And then I went there and I was like, I don't like this at all. Virginia Tech was just kind of like too grandiose and like every building looked the same. And I was like, this is not for me. It's also in the middle of nowhere. And UVA was like, no slander to my UVA friends out there, but like they're pretentious pricks. Um,
Jesus
I did not
Christ.
have the most pleasant experience when I have visited Charlottesville in the
Oh
past.
my God.
Shout out to Matt Larkin though. Briggs knows him. He's absolutely one of my best friends. He is not. Exception from the norm for sure. If there's any future employers, hire Matt Larkin. But besides that, yeah, I they were so full of themselves. It was bad. Um, uh, anyway, besides that point, find the school that best fits you. That's the number one thing. Everything else will fall behind it. If the school you think fits you, that's the number one thing. And the number two thing is you're not signing a 4-year contract. You can go other places. That's kind of it. Don't go for that big name school. Go necessary. If that's great, that's cool for you. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to Briggs and some other people. But if it's not what happens for you, then it's okay because that would be better. You would be way more happy going to a small liberal arts school for 4 years and going to a big school and not knowing and feeling lost. And I think that's a really great thing in how the educational system is built up.
Except
Yeah.
Blacksburg and Charlottesville.
Hey, I gotta support gotta support other Virginia schools, you know.
You did it. You just slandered both of them. You slandered the two big schools of the state.
they're not my personal preference. I will go that far. Um,
I will agree with you on that. I will also put in the plug. I do know a couple people who don't fit the norm, but I will say I think
Pretentious
UVA.
pricks.
I think UVA does get a bad rap, and I think you and I will not name. I will not name the high school, but I think Will, you and I both know what school a lot of those kids come from.
I will. Norfolk Academy. I hate that school. Don't go to Norfolk Academy. You can cut that out if you want me to, but
Oh no, we're putting it in. Will wants all the smoke today. Better
Hey,
receive hate comments instead of stuff. Oh my
hey,
God.
it helps the
Hey,
algorithm.
do we just need to say Clemson football sucks? Just get it over with.
Hey, I mean that worked. That worked the first time we said it when
Yeah.
I said they were dead.
Uh,
But
uh,
I think that's about it, Joey. I don't know if you have any more questions.
no, I'm good. You wanna look through JMU's schedule real quick and jinx them
I
if we
mean,
got some hype for them?
if
I
you
got it
have it,
pulled up.
okay, if you have it pulled up, shoot for it.
At Charlotte, home against Gardner Webb, 2-0. Bye. At North Carolina. I don't know about that one.
I think
I
we
don't know
take
about that one.
North,
At
North,
UNC,
under a first-year head coach for North
I
Carolina.
I gotta. All right, we'll go 2-1. You got 2-1 too, Briggs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking at it. I don't know.
So at Charlotte, home against Gardner Webb, at UNC,
Yeah, I'll give them
two
two
and
and one
one.
in that.
Home against Ball State, 3 and
Three and
1.
one.
At ULM, 4 and 1. Home against Coastal.
I think Coastal's
Coastal
got
is
that one.
not Coastal's not what they used to be.
Is Grayson
We
McCall coming back for his 12th year? That's my biggest question. Like, he's coming. Is he coming back for his 15th year or what?
I mean, we destroyed them this year, so
All right, we'll
You
give
guys
him a win.
also
So
didn't you guys lose your starting quarterback?
yeah, he transferred.
hmm
I think he went to
we lost our
Texas
starting
State.
quarterback. We lost our
He did.
starting.
Because I think Robbie Ashford. Where did Robbie Ashford go?
Was he the Auburn guy?
He was Auburn that transferred
No, I
Texas
think
State.
Jordan McLeod went to Auburn. He went
Jordan
somewhere
McLeod went to
big.
Texas State.
You sure
No,
about
I
that?
think Jordan went to Texas State.
All
And
right, I'm
then,
look that up, but y'all keep going.
all right, so We'll go 5-1 or whatever that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah,
You're
5 and
right.
1. At Georgia Southern, win. Home against Southern Miss. So I got 7 and 1. Bye. Home against Georgia State. At ODU. At App State. And home against Marshall. I say
We'll
at
probably
worst 10 and
lose
2.
about. We'll at worst 10-2. No. I'll go 9-3 for this season, or 8-4. We're gonna take a step back. We're not gonna be the same school we have been for the past 2 years. We've lost so many of our players. That's not a bad thing. No one's gonna expect us to be the exact same team.
Well, it's also making these predictions before spring transfer portal opens because
Hmm.
a lot of these rosters, like if these guys aren't getting starting spots that either thought they were going to or whatever, they're going to transfer to some of these smaller schools, App State or some like Sunbelt schools, Max schools, that type of stuff. So I would be on the wary for that. I think the transfer portal opens up soon. If it hasn't, I don't think it has already, but I think it's opening up
I
soon.
Yeah, I haven't been hearing anything, so I don't think it's.
I think it's opening. I think it opens beginning of next week. I think it opens on the 17th, 20th, something like that. But 10-2, 9-3, ODU and App State worry me just because those are in Georgia Southern. All those away
We
games
could.
worry me about a little bit, but Harrisonburg's
Yeah,
always bumping, especially the last 2 years since JMU's gotten a lot of recognition.
oh yeah,
I
it's a
think it
place
was
to
when they
be.
were an FCS school, so
Oh yeah,
I'm not
I
really
mean,
worried about I'm not really worried about JMU when it comes to sports. They're for some reason their athletic programs are just
yeah,
elite
but it's
for where they
crazy.
were.
We have insanely good luck, but our athletic director is retiring. Our basketball coach went to Vanderbilt. Head football coach went to Illinois. So who knows? It's truly gonna next year's gonna start a new era in JMU sports, whether that's for the best or for the worst. Hopefully for the best.
Well, luckily there's a lot of teams that aren't very good on the schedule, so
Gotta
still
love
going
playing the snow.
bowling, so
Yeah,
because the bowl ban's lifted after this year, I think.
yeah. I mean, we
But
went bowling last year, so
yeah, well, and everyone at JMU was freaking out about.
dude, when we
Uh,
when we got announced that we went bowling, oh my, the school was electric. We were like, yo, we're going bowling. What? We're going bowling? Oh my God! Ah! And it's the same
at
thing
least you
happened when we
didn't.
got College Game Day.
At least you didn't have Liberty's fucking draw Oregon and then just go get murdered.
Yeah.
That exactly. Um, Robbie Ashford went to South Carolina.
Oh, that's right. Because I remember saying something about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's who's going to start this year. Good luck.
Yeah.
I don't think Robbie Ashford's starting here this year. I think it's going to be up to Lenore Sellers.
They ain't starting a true freshman.
He's a
In the
sophomore.
SEC? True sophomore or
He's a
redshirt?
true sophomore. He was. I don't think they redshirted him last year. I'm not
Yeah,
entirely
we'll
sure that
see.
he may have played in 2 or 3 games.
Still
We'll
don't
see.
trust it.
We got Dylan. We got Dylan Morris, so
That ain't bad.
backup.
There you go.
Yeah, backup from Washington started before they got Michael Penix in from the transfer portal. So
Yeah, it'll. Jamie will be all right. They've always got. For some reason, they always have aliens running around their school.
Pat McAfee seems to think so. So
That's. I mean, he's got a point. For some reason, Jamie's athletic programs just came out of nowhere and freaked out. But
yeah,
Well, Will, thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute blast. Hopefully, you're the first of many. And
oh yeah,
obviously,
absolutely.
if there's any athletes out there that you know that would like to get their word out, they're more than welcome to come on. You've got my number. Just pass it on to them. So yeah, that's all that I've got. I think that's all Joey's got. So again, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. Good luck for the rest of the semester. I know finals are coming up here. Don't know if you have any more tournaments for handball, but good luck in those.
Just this weekend.
Just this weekend. Okay, good luck in that. Let us
good
know how
luck
it
at
goes.
that.
So, Thank you. Thank you to everyone else for tuning in. Obviously, a lot of good information that was passed along here. Whether you're looking to go to college, looking to get recruited, all that. We covered just about all of it. Definitely look at club sports. They are a viable option, especially if you're wanting to still have somewhat of a normal life. So, thank you for tuning in. Will, thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys next week.